30 minutes. But comrades, many people say to me that they view the forthcoming conference of the ANC at the end of the year, the National Conference, as possibly a defining event. Possibly a defining event in the future of our country. And of course, they say this aware of the political position of the ANC, who are the governing party nationally, the governing party in 8 of the provinces. I think we are still the majority party in the majority of the municipalities, whatever is happening in the metros. So this is a very powerful political force in our country. And so when it convenes a national conference, as it will at the end of the year in December, naturally, I think it is natural for people, whatever their political persuasions, indeed to come to a conclusion like that this is possibly a defining event in terms of the future of our country. I think that emphasizes the importance of the matters that Comrade Billy has raised. And I'm quite sure that part of the reason people would want to see it as possibly a defining event is that they must be concerned about what policies must come out of there. What will this dominant political force in this country come out in terms of the policies to pull the country out of all of the problems that it has? That's one question. Another, of course, would be the leadership. What leadership will emerge from there? Both from a policy point of view and a leadership point of view, a question is raised, maybe an expectation, let me say, expectation that out of the conference will come decisions and a leadership which would actually successfully help to lead the country out of this perpetually declining economy. The economy has been on the decline for a number of years. Numbers of unemployed increasing, levels of poverty increasing, lots of skilled people emigrating. All sorts of challenges like this, and we are the government. And I'm saying over these years, we haven't communicated a leadership that indeed we can reverse all of this. So I'm saying that one of the concerns, therefore, would be, will this conference come up with policies and leadership that can change that? The state of the state-owned enterprises, important players in that process of that economic recovery. You look at Transnet, just now, Transnet with that strike. If people hadn't understood the strategic place of Transnet in terms of the economy, I think they do now. But I think Transnet is not in a very healthy state. I'm saying these are the sorts of questions. Will this conference that's coming in December help us to answer those questions? What do we do? The question of corruption that Billy mentioned. I was told one of the ministers, I'm not going to say his name or her name, who was in charge of, in that COGTA ministry, he once said at an NEC meeting that if all of the resources, the money is voted for local government, if they actually went to local government to do what they were supposed to do, you would not have these demonstrations about service delivery. And he said that the part of the problem is that a lot of those monies end up in the pockets of ANC leaders. And he went on to say, and I'm talking about people who are present in this meeting of the NEC, some of them. I'm saying that corruption is a very direct problem relating to this matter I'm raising, for instance, about the economy. I think it's justified for people to ask the question, will this conference in December come out with policies and programs and a leadership that will actually deal with this problem? I don't want to embarrass Billy Ramkhupaye by asking him to answer the question, is he confident that this conference will produce those results? We've just had a policy conference. Which I'm certain has agreed on many good policies. But in the end, it's the practical outcome or the practical outcomes that will come out of those policy decisions that will count. We've been discussing, we've been raising these questions now, discussions, including in the NEC, that in October 2020, President Ramaphosa convened, asked the two houses of parliament to come together because he wanted to announce an important program, which was the South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Program, which is called the ERRP. Contains all the major elements of what need to be done about this economy, whether it's infrastructure or training of skilled people and so on. That was in October 2020. In July the same year, 2020, the business people, as one of the components, the social partners in the NAD-led process, had produced its own economic recovery program. They called it a strategy. It's an economic strategy, and government presented a reconstruction and recovery plan. I'm sure, comrades, you've had a look at both of those documents. You can get them off the internet, and of course, the president, the speech, you can get it off the website of the presidency. So at one of those meetings of the NEC, I say, you know, I've got the speech of the president on the ERRP, and I've downloaded from the media, from the internet, this thing that was presented by government. And I've looked at them. One of them, the ERRP, is 32 pages. The business strategy is 132 pages. So I say, you see, just looking at the length, it seems to me business have done more work on this thing than government has. And in reality, when I look at this business thing, it is supplying the detail of what needs to be done in order to realize what is in the ERRP. The ERRP is a vision. This is where we want to get to. We got to infrastructure everything. Very correct. Nothing wrong with the ERRP. But needs a plan to realize that vision. And so we say, but why don't we look at this business strategy? It's very detailed. We as social partners and work on that to produce a plan. We call the ERRP a plan. It's not a plan. Never mind how many times you call it a plan. It doesn't make it a plan. It's not a plan. It's a vision. It's a perspective. Where do we want? It's a dream. Correct one. But you need to say, what are the practical steps to get there? I remember at the end of that discussion, Comrade Phoebe is here. She would remember this. At the end of the discussion, Comrade President Ramaphosa, he says, Comrade Thabo is correct. Business has submitted their own economic strategy to government because it was a discussion document for the social partners. And he says, but what's wrong, where he was wrong, me, the document is not 132 pages, it's 1,000 pages. Emphasizes exactly the point that there's been very detailed planning to realize these objectives that are in the ERRP. Why are we not then taking this business thing, discuss it as social partners, amend it, change it, whatever, and then we have a socio-economic plan? Doesn't happen. Hasn't happened. I know of ministers, national ministers in our cabinet, who in the last 2 months say they've never seen this business strategy. It was submitted to government in July 2020. In August 2022, minister says, I've never heard of it. What is that? I'm saying policy shortfalls. Look at the matter of safety and security. Yeah. The police service were missing in action in July last year, when you had that terrible mayhem. There was this sort of unofficial strike earlier this year at ESCOM. And all sorts of reports about what was happening there. Even roadblocks being set up so that workers don't come to work, all of that. So I posed a question. I said, this is worrying. And this is a national key point, ESCOM. You have things going wrong. This strike, it was an illegal strike. But I'm talking about the things that were then done, which clearly are illegal. Out there in the open. Somebody comes and says to the workers, no, never mind, we're not on strike officially, but you're not allowed to go to work, so they block the roads. National key point. So I say, where were the police? We are now no longer talking about July 2021, where a lot of trouble in KZN and in this province. This is restricted. All these power stations are fenced and all of that. Where were the police on a small matter like this? I'm talking about this ESCOM. I haven't had an answer yet to that question. because it communicates a message that there is something radically wrong with the police service. There must be. I'm reading a book. It's called, I'll remember the title, but it's a thick book. It deals with organized crime in the country. And a big part of it is about this Czech criminal, whatever his name is, Krejci or something. That's right. And then all of those sorts of people, these criminal networks. What is frightening in that book are the number of senior police officers who are in the pockets of these criminals. And the author fortunately mentions them by name. It's so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm saying, I'm quite sure that out of the policy conference, we came out with a safety and security policy. It will become something real in its outcomes. When we no longer have this problem of saying, where were the police? And why are so many of them, according to that book, in the hands, in the pockets of criminals? You know, long time ago, the police, it must be early 2000s, they closed down, shut down there was an anti-narcotics unit in the police fighting drugs. They closed it down. And one of the reasons was one of the senior officers in that unit, at that point he was operating out of Cape Town, owned a block of flats. Police officer. The whole block of flats he owns, and he rents and 2 big houses in Cape Town. It's clear. This money, these things are bought with drug money. And I'm saying a senior person appointed to fight the drug trade was benefiting. So they decided in the senior police command that we don't know how many of the people in that unit, that division, have in fact not been corrupted. That's why they closed it down. But I'm saying that, sure, we'll have policy, but will it address these things, which are practical, which are the things, if you address them, you are then addressing the safety and security of the population. You would say it happening. So now you know that these policies are correct. In response to the Zondo Commission report, this work is being done by comrades in the NEC on this matter to respond, and Comrade Cyril, the President, should have said, distributed some document, I think today. So there is work that is being done on this matter. But again, in the end, what will convince this country that indeed the leadership of the ANC has done work on this thing are the results. Let me mention just one area, comrades. I'm sure all of us, Comrade Billy, have been following up on these judicial commissions. Because whatever else we might say about them, they help to teach us about, to tell us about what it is, what's happening in our own country. the Nugent Commission was established because remember this South African Revenue Service, over the years, their collections were declining. And that's what people got worried. But what is happening? This has been operating like a superstar for some years. And then suddenly there's a negative turn. Why? So the Nugent Commission gets appointed. And then it gives a very, very detailed, I hope you've read that thing. Very, very detailed account of what happened to SARS. And incidentally, Judge Zondo continues with that story. Of course, he borrows, it takes from what Nugent said and continues. And comrades, it's very, very obvious that intervention with regard to SARS was for the purpose of destroying the institution. It was not to steal. It was not to this corruption of theft of money. It was to destroy the institution. SARS is responsible for 95–98% of state revenues. You destroy SARS, you did destroy this democratic republic. That surely, I'm not a lawyer, but that surely is treason. And the treasonable acts are spelled out in detail in the Nugent report and the Zondo report. If you've read them, it's scary. And again, in both reports, the persons responsible are identified by name. I don't know what the ANC leadership is going to say about that. Because many of them, these people who are involved, are ANC people who get involved in an operation to destroy SARS, just to defeat the democratic revolution. Yet they are sitting there, they are ANC members. We call them comrades. I'm saying comrades, these are many, I think, policy shortfalls. Certainly from the point of view of the outcomes we need. The other day we were talking about this new electoral law, the amendment to the electoral law. Remember that the Constitutional Court said we must amend that Electoral Act in order to allow individuals to run for provincial and national legislatures. And that's all it said. So there has come out a bill which has now been approved as an act by the National Assembly. It's still got to go to NCOP, which goes way beyond that. Maybe correctly, maybe not, I don't know. But one of the striking things about it is there was a meeting not long ago. So I got a report from one of the comrades who participated in that meeting. And they were discussing this electoral bill. And he was telling me about the number of NEC comrades who were present in that meeting. There's a speaker who made a presentation as a respondent from the ANC. When the respondent from the ANC had to speak, he said, "No, I'm terribly sorry, it's difficult for me to speak because I don't know what the bill says." Member of the NEC, sent by the NEC to respond to this. I don't know what it says. Followed by other NEC comrades who were in the meeting who said, we also don't know what it says. So you've got a bill that in Parliament it go to the NCOP, become a law of the country, the NEC leadership does not know what it says. You are changing the electoral system. So, there's one draft of the bill, and so somebody alerted me, said, please have a look at that draft. So I looked for it, found it, and it had a system, the votes would be counted 3 times. These votes, people vote, then we'll count the votes, and then declare so many people elected. And then we'll count the second time, what remaining votes, I don't know what the remaining votes are, get the next set of people elected. And count for the third time, don't know what it means. So I showed this to the comrade of the Minister of Home Affairs. Comrade Aaron, this thing doesn't make sense. What is this? He says, of course it doesn't make sense. So what are we going to do? No, we've ordered that it must be withdrawn. But it was actually a bill before Parliament. It had gone through all our processes and ended up as a bill. So that was withdrawn, that bill. A new bill was drafted, this time by the Portfolio Committee. So what is being approved now is from the Portfolio Committee. One of the provisions is that the National Assembly MPs, half of them must be elected as regional representatives. By region is meant the province, so the provinces. So half of the members of the National Assembly will be elected as representatives of the provinces. It's a kind of constituency-based system. And then half will come from this proportional representation thing. So, but what is, it does not, the judge said, create space for individuals to run. Now they were basically changing how the National Assembly is constituted. And you have half of the members in the National Assembly coming from representing provinces. Yeah. Then you have the NCOP. We elect people from the provinces to send to the NCOP. What does that mean? Now, both 2 houses have got these regional, provincial representatives. But it's in the bill that is being approved now as a law. And I bet if you convene the National Executive Committee tomorrow and said to them, is this what you approved? They will say no. Have you seen it? No, the first time we hear about it. They don't know. You can't change. You are the governing party. You can't change the electoral law of this country unless it's a conscious decision of the movement. So we say that, sure, we may decide to change, but before you change, ask these ANC comrades, you people, were there when decisions were taken that you must have a proportional representation system, no constituents. Why did you take that decision? Before you decide to change it. You'll probably understand, and now we understand why. Therefore, why do you want to change it? Comrade Billy, we've got a very good local government electoral system, in my view. It's very good. But it's not necessarily transferable, replicated. To take it's working so well in local government, let's do it at national. No. Because there was a particular argument, a particular discussion and rationale from the point of the ANC in designing that electoral system for local government. it had to do very, very centrally with this matter that the people shall govern. How should we construct government at the local government level to come as close as possible to that notion, practically, the people shall govern? If you look at the provisions for local government, you can see that Pesumashati gets elected as a councillor in this ward is required to produce an IDP, Integrated Development Plan, for this ward. In order to bring government closest to the people, so the people actually govern. Many, many other provisions. There are even provisions that it's the responsibility of the councillor to help mobilize NGOs to participate in these processes. But one of the things, comrades, that is our experience from local government, is that the candidate councillors get killed. It's part of our experience. The murder of candidate councillors, or even sitting councillors. What does that experience tell us? So you decide to transfer this system to national. Candidate MPs will get killed. And the killing at local government level has got a lot to do with access to resources. Look at the crisis now at Mangaung municipality. A good part of that crisis in Mangaung municipality is that there are councils there, councillors who are owned by business people. So you can't get the council to function properly. Money to own these legislators. Why do you think it won't happen at the national level when we have all of these constituencies? And Thabo Mbeki wants to be an MP. He's broke, he doesn't have money. Yeah. I'll supply him with the money. I'm saying these are practical experiences. As we look at what electoral system do you want? You must take on board all of these things. But Comrade Phoebe will support me here. When the matter was discussed at the NEC not long ago, you have members of the NEC, of the ANC, saying we must write the electoral law so that the ANC wins. And comrades cited examples to reinforce this argument. How can the ANC design electoral policy so that it wins? ANC must design electoral policy in order to advance the democratic revolution. But it tells you something about what has happened to our leadership. That you would have people sitting in the National Executive Committee who thinks that the ANC can design policies just to benefit itself. I mean, it's such an insult about the ANC. ANC can't think like that. But people are sitting on the NEC who say that. And they think they're very correct. They speak with a lot of passion about something else entirely wrong. I was saying, a comrade really, that the people say this might be a defining event at the end of the December because of the policy expectations. I'm talking about some of those policy expectations. It's also about leadership. What kind of leadership is going to emerge from there? There are many comrades who say, I'm available. If I'm nominated, I'm available. Please elect me. And not one of them explains why they must be elected. Why must I elect you? Because you're pretty. None of them. Try and justify. I'm available to, if I'm nominated. To do what? Because we've got to look at, I don't know if there's ever any possibility to look at the track records of these comrades who are standing. Unfortunately, we've got our good friends here next to me. I see ETV here and SABC. So I can't talk about the individuals. But you can see that particular individuals here in our leadership who don't qualify to be in the NEC, much less to be something in government. But they're available to be elected. You see? Choose me, elect me. The country is watching, the population is watching. Will this conference in December produce people that we, even from a distance, we say, well, I think I can trust those ones? Clearly, one of the big activities in which comrades are involved is putting together the slates. Very busy. I don't know who's talking about what do we want to come out of Nasrec in December? About the future of the country, not the future of individuals as presidents and whatever else. I don't know if that discussion is taking place anyway. We've seen provincial conferences take place here, and in the end you have up to 2 sessions. Because session number 1, which takes 3 days or 4 days or whatever, is all about whom do we elect. Then you need a second session of a day and a half to discuss policy. Real practical problems. Our president is under a lot of pressure. I'm talking about President Ramaphosa. Is under a lot of pressure around this matter about Pala Farm. There are criminal investigations going on. The Parliament is doing its own processes. The Reserve Bank has done what it wants to do, and I don't know whoever else is doing what. What relevance does that all have to the leadership that will come out of Nasrec at the end of December? Or is it entirely irrelevant? Doesn't matter. The parliamentary panel of 3 tasked with this challenge, they must advise the National Assembly whether our president has an impeachable case to answer. And as comrades know, they've given up to 30 days to do that, which means 30 days will run out sometime in the month of November. What happens if they say he's got a case to answer? What do we do? Bill? Because the population out there, its own conclusion will be Something wrong there. Wrong, maybe wrongly, because indeed somebody is innocent until proven guilty. The fact that a panel like that says that, it does not mean it's correct. But I'm saying you put out a notion like that, coming from this team of senior lawyers, all of them are lawyers, and they say, we've looked at what we have, what we can, and it seems to us there's a case to answer. The leadership of the ANC cannot avoid meeting to discuss the question. In the light of that, what do we do? Do we say to the president, he must step aside? Or do we say, no, let it continue through the courts, through the parliamentary process? What's the impact of that on the ANC, in the public mind? I'm saying, comrades, one of the matters that people are saying, perhaps a defining moment, a defining event, is because they are asking this question: what kind of leadership is going to come out of that? And a lot of that leadership that will come out of there are people who have been in the leadership already. So the public has a view about them. It might be mistaken or whatever it might be, but there's a view in the public there. That one is back again. And there was one minister here who, they were organizing some big event for their ministry. And among other things, they needed big marquees. And all of that goes with that. So he talked to some business people, one company, it's a black company, and said, look, we are planning to do this. I'd like to give the contract, the contract to you people to supply the tents and all of that. But let's agree that when you've done that, when I've given you this contract and costed it, and so you can then say to us, I will need so much money, you have to pay me so much. The minister says to them, add 40% to that. And then afterwards we can decide how to share it out between ourselves, yourselves and myself. And he says, and you know, you may be puzzled why I'm doing that. But he said, because, you know, as a minister, your life is very uncertain. Because you never know when you are going to be reshuffled. So your stay as a minister is, so while you are there, make as much as you can. That's why I'm making this proposal. I know the story, comrades, because the particular company, after that meeting, they actually came to our foundation to report that. And said, of course, when we said to the minister gave us the time to think. We're not thinking, we're not going to take that thing. I'm sure those people in that company must have told the half a dozen other people in the country about that minister, who then pops up as member of your National Executive Committee after December. Those people will say, no, not that one. I'm saying that a lot of these comrades who are going to come back, they have got some track record in the people's minds. Who in the movement is discussing that question? What kind of leadership do we want to emerge out of that conference? People that we can rely on to implement these policies that came out of policy conference. And we ourselves, we know ourselves. So, at what point does anybody in the movement engage these two challenges? What policy outcomes do we want out of NASREC at the end of the year? And what leadership outcomes do we want out of NASREC at the end of the year? So that we begin even to change the public mind about the ANC. They begin to see that the ANC is actually, we know so and so and so and so and the other one. We now notice that they've dropped them. At what point does that get discussed by whom? That's why I'm saying I'm happy to join the SDG. Because you've got to, SDG must look at those things and see what kind of contribution do we make to address the things that Comrade Billy was talking about the Damascus movement. We've got to change direction in many ways. But who is that agent that is going to bring about that change? What do we do? I'm raising that question, comrades, in the context of saying, well, what do we do? We may analyze until we turn blue in the face if black can be blue. But in the end, we've got to say, okay, having analyzed and studied and that and that and that, what do we do? The comrades might have noticed that we've been, myself and some other comrades, we've been going around among the provinces, talking to the ANC in the provinces. This was started by an invitation from the ANC provincial leadership in KZN, who said, please, we want you to come and join us because we are very, very worried that the ANC in the province is dying in our hands. And we don't quite know what to do. So indeed, we joined the comrades there. After which then they told the other provincial leadership that, this is what we're doing in KZN. As a result of which all the provinces then sent in, no, don't leave us out, come. So that's why we've been wandering around the country. And one of the matters, a central matter that we've been raising, which Comrade Billy mentioned now quite correctly, it is matter of the renewal of the ANC. The quality of the membership of the ANC in terms of its political quality has declined over the years. That is why you will get a member of the NEC saying, let's design an electoral committee in order the ANC is elected. It's perfectly obvious, and the matter has been discussed in policy, national conferences, national, for the last 2 decades. We can look, comrades, in every document, conference document, they all raise this issue. That since we became government, we've attracted people who want to come into the ranks of the ANC, have know nothing about the policies of the ANC, know nothing about the values of the ANC, but they know that this is a governing party. If I behave myself properly, I will become a leader, get into government, and be able to steal public resources. The movement has been saying that for 20 years. That is, people have been piling in and all the time. And we haven't dealt with this problem. If they were 1,000 in 1997, And we complain about this, we identify the problem, we analyze it, don't act on it. 10 years later, there are 10,000. And the numbers accumulate to such an extent that they begin to define what the ANC is. I was talking to one of the provincial chairs of the ANC just now in the last fortnight. And the comrade says to me, we're discussing this matter, to say when we talk renewal of the ANC, we're carrying too much baggage of wrong people. And you've got to have the courage to face that and act on it. And he said to me, no, Comrade President, in my province, in terms of what you are saying, 60% of our membership is of the type you are talking about. He told me about the district. He said there's such and such a district, mentioned the name, and said in that province, in that region, every single branch is led by a criminal. Every single one. You have a renewed ANC led by criminals. What is that? There was immediately after this, soon after, the local government elections in November. Somebody circulated, what do you call those things, Phoebe? A clip from somebody who was talking. It was a podcast. And this comrade says, in Newcastle, is an ANC comrade. In Newcastle, we did not campaign for election in terms of the local government elections last year. We didn't. And he says there is a comrade, remember one of our people in Newcastle, very, very popular, will always be elected. The people love him. He did not campaign. The IFP approached us and said to us, please don't campaign. And we agreed with them. We didn't campaign. The reason we didn't campaign is because if we campaigned and won, we would put in authority in the leadership of the municipality people who are criminals. They are ANC, but they are our leaders. That's why we decided not to campaign. We said we can't. We can't campaign for the ANC to win, because the ANC to win in Newcastle means to put a criminals in the leadership of the municipality. We can't do that. And the fellow is talking, he says, you know, these people of ours, comrades, who've been in charge of this municipality, they actually have on their payrolls izinkabi. You know, these professional killers. They are paid monthly. So they are held in reserve, so that one day I'm going to say, go and kill so-and-so. They say they are actually paid by the municipality, our people, retainers. Now, renewal. The policy conference took a decision about this renewal challenge. A very specific decision in terms of what is to be done. And said this is important, it must be led by the President as volunteer-in-chief. A program must come out from the SU office. Implementation must take place, including with the Veterans League. To implement a decision that was taken in 2017. That conference said there must be renewal for the very survival of the ANC. The policy conference now puts together a machinery to say, therefore, let's act on it with this machinery. So I've been thinking, therefore, Comrade, that's not a decision that is a recommendation to National Conference. It's a decision to implement what's decided at the last National Conference. So we have to act on it. But do we act now? Can we act now? Is it practical? Comrade Billy did say correctly that they, the SDG, have been part of the renewal steering committee of the Veterans League of the ANC, which deals with this renewal business. The mandate of the PEC of the Veterans League has expired. So they are going to be dissolved and the PTT formed. So this instrument visualized in the policy conference among the implementers of this renewal process, that thing is, you dissolve it, you must wait until this, all of these other processes are done. And I suspect that, Comrade Billy, in the end, you are going to find that your renewal steering committee doesn't exist in the process of that. That disempowerment of instruments that the movement needs to effect this renewal, you are going to find that it's disappeared. What do we do? Those are questions that arise. Because this challenge of renewal of the movement is urgent, it's important. We should have started in 2018, we didn't. But here's a policy, a position, a possibility given by policy conference to act. Yeah. The provincial structures, as I was saying earlier, watching from afar, it seems to me the provincial structures of the ANC are really preoccupied with this business of slates. With this province proposed so and so and so, but we're ready to negotiate with other provinces and lean all of that. These are comrades who stand in very important positions. Provincial leadership, they are the ones who are more directly in touch with the membership and the branches than the National Executive Committee. What are they communicating to this membership? That the reason we're going to conference in December is to elect a leadership according to one slate or the other slate. It's wrong. They should not be doing that. So, don't we have a challenge as the SDG, with me as a member of the SDG? We ask these 9 provincial chairs of the ANC. We say, comrades, let's talk about what is going to come out of NASREC in December, particularly in terms of policy, but also in terms of the people that we are going to elect there. And talk frankly without these microphones, these other microphones. To talk very frankly, to say, but the proposal you are making, that we must vote for comrade so-and-so, is wrong. We can't support that. Comrades who stand up and say, this step-aside thing is wrong, must be changed. You say, but it's people who don't understand the ANC. A long time ago, there was a comrade in the Free State who was a member of the PEC in the Free State, was an MEC in the Free State, but owned taxis, small businessman. Then there's a story that comes out that there were murders that occurred in the Free State, seemingly in connection with these taxi wars, including Mr. So-and-so might have been involved. You know, Comrade Billy, that comrade resigned. He came and he said, look, you've seen this story about the taxi wars in the Free State, and I'm a taxi owner, I've been involved in all of that, people have died. So I'm resigning from the PEC, and I'm resigning from the MEC position. Because this story, the allegation that is out there, it damages the ANC. It brings disrepute to the ANC, and Comrade resigned. And he said, I want to Comrade ready to assure you, I've never been involved in any matter or anything like that. But I can't continue to occupy these positions because I'm damaging the ANC. He stepped down. He didn't step aside. He stepped down. The matter did end up in court. They were charged, including him, and acquitted. Well, nothing he had done. It was the politics of the taxi industry. Now, that's a comrade who understood the ANC, who understood what it means to be a member. I carry this label of a murderer. I'm not. But I carry this label. I can't say, because I'm innocent until proved guilty, I'm going to stay put. No. Anybody who says that, you know for a word that they are not ANC. It's the staff riders. But I'm just saying, therefore, what is it? What do we do to intervene now? And if maybe even during conference itself, to impact on the question, what do we want to come out of the National Conference at the end of December? So that indeed, this 55th National Conference of the ANC becomes a defining event because of the product, what it will produce. The last thing I must say, comrades, is you've had, all of us, have heard all sorts of things being said. Some time back, some people started the notion that Nelson Mandela had sold out during the negotiations. He sold out, that's why we're having all of these problems. Later, you'll have other people say, this business of a constitutional democracy is wrong because it's taking power from the people who are elected, the direct representatives of the people. Therefore, what we want to have is a system of parliamentary sovereignty. It shuts down this constitutional court and all of that. You are giving powers to these judges to say no to something approved by the elected representatives. No. So completely overturn a system of government that the ANC put in place. Must go. That is accompanied by a sustained attack on the judges. Systematic offensive against the judiciary. What I'm trying to say, comrades, is we have not done, let me start somewhere else. We made a strategic mistake as the leadership of the movement during the time of the transition, 1994. And the strategic mistake we made was to believe that all of the people who had been on the other side, the old order people, they are defeated and they've surrendered, and now they'll go grumbling, but they can't do anything. A democracy will be in place and the ANC will be elected and all that. But we said also, it would be wrong to think there's none among them, the old order, who are not really happy with what has happened. So there will be an attempt at counter-revolution. And the way we visualized counter-revolution at the time was that it would be violent interventions by the old order to subvert the democratic revolution. Bombs and assassinations and things like that. And so that is the area we're going to focus on, this threat. At that time, there are 3 cabinet committees at the national level. One cabinet committee was on economic affairs, another one is on security, and so on, and so on, but 3. And Madiba made it an absolute point never to miss a meeting of the committee dealing with matters of security, because of his preoccupation with this thing. There are people from the old order who will not have accepted this thing. They are going to come at us with bombs and guns and so on. So this committee, subcommittee of the NSC, of the cabinet, must really be very fair. He attended every single meeting of that particular subcommittee. But comrades, the strategic mistake was we didn't think that the counter-revolution would come at us from inside. We thought it was outside there, the Buramach and all of those people. Kanti. It's in our ranks. And is active, hasn't died. It was those years, those days. So Comrade Jerry Jomudise and myself are given a task to talk to the chiefs of intelligence of the old order, which we did. Spoke to a head of civilian intelligence to say, democracy is now with us, we are all reconciling and da. But in our ranks, in South African society, there are people, including in the ANC, that you infiltrated in the ANC. We suggest that you give us the names of those people, just the 2 of us. It's been agreed in the leadership of the ANC that just the 2 of us, JM and myself, will deal with this. We will then talk to these comrades individually to say that we know that you worked for the system, but all is forgiven. So we're going to forget all of that, so that even your handler, if your handler comes to you to say do bad things, say go away, because my movement knows, and they've forgiven me, so you can't send me anywhere. That was the plan. So we talked to the Chief of Intelligence, say, in Civilian Services, National Intelligence Service. And he said, but both of you, you know very well that there is no handler of a spy who discloses the name of the spy. You know that very well. So sure, that's part of the trade. So you are not getting any names from me. And we never got. We went to Johan van der Merwe of the police, said the same thing, and he said, no. You are not going to get any names. And went to the military. I'll remember the general. Same thing. They gave us a list of 20 names. Here's a list of 20 names. The problem with these names is that it's John, Thabo, Tsepo, that's all. Now who is John? Who is Thabo? That's all they did. They gave us his first names. So we look at his first names with Comrade JM. And some examine each one of them. And we thought we recognized 4. That this one must be so and so. No. So indeed we called these comrades individually, we talked to them. And all of them said, no, you got the wrong person. If you think I was an enemy agent, produce the evidence. Of course you don't have it. No, comrades, no, me, I'm clean. So that was the end of our effort. So all of the people who were infiltrated into the movement, we were never able to flush them out through that method. Even when we constituted the new intelligence services, the comrades working in the intelligence services managed to find 1, 2, or 3, or 4. The bulk they didn't. I'm saying, Comrade Billy, that we were looking for the counter-revolution which was going to come at us from there, but it was in fact inside. It's got a political platform. This thing about Mandela Soul that comes from that political platform. This thing about the overturn this system that we set up here in the country, give supremacy to parliament, comes from that. Now, I'm mentioning this to say, I think the time has come that as a movement, we don't pussyfoot around this matter, which is what has been happening. We don't pussyfoot around this matter to say there was a counter-revolution that was put in place in order to defeat us. And this is some of the things that it did. All of this destruction that we see in the state corporations and so on, is a very systematic process. To this day, people are chosen by somebody there to serve on the boards of the state corporations. That we must talk more openly about that and explain its political agenda, its political platform, so that people are able to see that this comrade who's going to come to me to say, me, I'm a great defender of the elected people of the country. They can't be overthrown, their decisions overturned by these unelected judges. I know, I want to be an elected representative. To understand that that thing is not innocent. I'm saying, Comrade Billy, that's the last thing I say. To understand as we're confronting these challenges, asking ourselves the question, what will come out of Nasrec at the end of the month? To rebuild the ANC in the way that Billy was talking, to be able to resolve the actual problems of staring in the face. We must always know that there's somebody else who wants us to fail. They will be active, they will be very busy, so it's not an easy walk. But at least we should be able to identify this person. To be able to say to everybody, this is the voice of the counter-revolution. Comrades are afraid to say that, in my sense, in the movement. Very reluctant. In the end, what do we do with ourselves? We know ourselves very well. I was asked a question somewhere. It was, I think, about ESCOM or something. So I answered the question. So the media reported it. And Gwede complained that I should not have answered that question. I should have discussed it first with him, with the officials. I mean, that kind of thing. What do I do? I'm sure he's going to say I should not have spoken to you today without... So, in the end, we've got this movement. If we don't do the things that need to be done, to attend to the quality of our leadership, to attend to the quality of our policies, the ANC will die. And with it will die the democratic revolution. And the matter is in our hands. I was just going to give you a little example of the need for us to talk to ourselves frankly. Many, many years ago, various comrades like Joel Nechtenge and others, they said, look, we, as national government, and particularly presidency, we need to have a process of interacting with the ordinary people. It's them who then said, let's have an Imbizo process. Okay, fine. And Imbizo was, face, would choose a district. And their comrades in the presidency would go to the district and come back and say, these are the main issues that people are raising in that district. Okay. So we go to the district. Now, in terms of those main issues, which national minister do we want to come with us? We might very well say, no, we can handle them without them. The people that we are going to need is a representative from the province and certainly the municipalities in the district. So you then sit there, Tieho, with these people the whole day. It's a local community. You are talking about the challenges facing this local community in this district. And you are taking notes, so that by the time of this meeting, if you have not responded to all of this, you go back to Pretoria, you still respond to those matters. Once we went to an Imbizo somewhere in Mpumalanga, meet in a hall. One of the sessions was in a big hall. There was a woman, it was a kind of amphitheater with the chairs coming down like this. And the woman from up there who had raised her hand and she was going to speak, and she speaks. And she says, President, I want to say thank you to you for coming to us again. It was in fact not again. She was from the next district, which we had visited. So I'm very glad you've come again. So I start shaking because I think I know what she's going to say. And you remember we raised various problems like this one and that one. Of course, yes, I remember. And now the reason I'm standing up is really to say, President, thank you very much. Because the things you promised to be done, to do, were done. That's all I'm standing up to say, thanks a lot. And she sat down. So, you know, because that was the intention of the Imbis. We're national government. We actually impact on these people to help them solve the problems. We've resurrected the Imbizo process. It's the president with the entire cabinet going to a province. It then becomes a process of marketing the government. No longer with this focus, what is it that we do to impact on solving the problems of these people in this locality? I'm saying those are things we need to discuss honestly among ourselves, to say the best way to go is like this. But it requires honesty and courage to be able to speak frankly about ourselves. One of the instruments we have in our hands to do that, to speak with that frankness, to intervene everywhere, was very, very sad when, Billy, you said you've talked to the Communist Party, but not to the ANC and COSATU, except for individuals. I don't understand how that happens. But you are a very, very important instrument to do these interventions I'm talking about. So that come January 2023, we must have somebody to blame, Bill. To say, look at the outcomes of that conference. It's because the SDG didn't intervene. With me as part of that SDG. But thanks a lot, comrades, and really let's approach this matter like that, with the objectivity that's required, but with the courage that's required to talk the truth, to tell the truth to one another, so that we're then able to do these changes, bring about these changes that are required, so that this conference indeed becomes a defining event in a positive way, not in a negative way. But thanks a lot.